But our next two presenters, this is a rare treat, folks. We have two presenters, a mother and son duet. Wow. And not just any mother and son duet, but the Newmans, Ginny and Ted, who are just fabulous with a capital F. I'm almost speechless because they're just such wonderful people. And for those of you who know them in this room, you know what I'm talking about, that there isn't much that needs to be said. So Ted and Ginny, will you please come up to the microphone?
I'm Ted, this is Jenny. I'm 64, she's 90 and a half.
What?
Leave off the half. And we're here to talk a little bit about relationship, because I think that love most manifests itself in a relationship. My parents' relationship began when she was 13 and my father was 14. They met at a church camp somewhere way down in Texas. Everyone here know what a secret Santa is? Okay. Church camps had the same thing, secret pals. They met by accident. My mother plucked my father's name out of a hat. We don't know whose name he plucked out. She's SOL, because once he hooked up with her, that was pretty much the end of the road. They married at a very young age. And we have a...
That was before we were
This
married.
is before you were married. I'm passing around two photos. You just pass that around. In the first photo, my dad, I think, is 19 and she's 18. This is a more recent one. This is actually a CCB product, much further down the road. Now, when they met, they came from opposite ends of the spectrum. Mom was the judge's daughter. My father came when he was very young from a family that was so poor, and this is the truth, shoes were what you wore on Sunday to church. So they came from opposite ends of the socioeconomic spectrum, but somehow love pulled them together. And they remained together as a couple for over half a century, longer. And so when we started talking about what she was going to say, I said, well, think about this. A lot of couples get to that first picture that's coming around. A lot of couples do that. I don't know how many ever get to that second picture. I don't know how someone gets down that twisted path from the very smitten beginnings of love to the kind of love you see in an older couple. And some couples here are probably on that same trek right now. So what I asked Mom to do was just think about what are the characteristics. What are the characteristics that make a relationship last for a lifetime? And so she just has a couple of points she wants to cover.
I guess this is about puppy love too. Am I coming through all right? Yes. Ted and I were talking about love, our kind of love. And we jotted down some words that really are kin to love and that held our love together for so long. Love is number one. Respect, number two. Patience, no fights. We never did argue. I don't know how we didn't, except that it takes two to fight. And he wouldn't argue. So we never had the problem of arguments. A sense of adventure is an adventure. Courage. Sense of humor. Oh my, a sense of humor. Trust and faith. We did fall in love very early. He was in Amarillo High School and I in Lubbock High School, and our schools were vicious enemies. But not us. He would come to visit me sometime from Amarillo, riding the bus to Lubbock. And then came the war, the war. He was in the Merchant Marines. The war interfered with his continued education. He was an officer in the Merchant Marines, and the first picture there is when he was home on leave after his ship had been torpedoed. I was so happy that he was safe. We had a wonderful time visiting for a while. Then back to the service he went. Then, when we married, I'd promised my family, my parents, that I would wait until I got my degree to get married. I went through college blazing a trail. I finished college when I was 19, and we were married very shortly thereafter. It was a wonderful marriage. He did become up on the pay scale a good bit, and he was always exciting to me, and I think I to him, because when we first lived in the Bay Area in California, San Francisco Bay Area. Then we moved here because he got a real good job with UARCO, which was based here. And even when we'd been married many years, he would say the sweetest things. Like, I remember very clearly when he came in one night and said, you know, when I get in the car and I start down 59, I feel my foot getting heavier on the accelerator all the while, the closer I was getting. And I just remember that kind of thing. He talks that way a lot. We really had a wonderful time after he retired. It was a new phase. We were adventurers. We learned how to travel, going to Europe a couple of times. And then we pursued adventure travel. We'd say, where shall we go next? Well, we visited China. We visited Russia. We went all over the world. And each time we would come home, it wouldn't be too long until we began to save and think about another trip. I think that kept the sense of adventure in our marriage so much, so exciting. And then we fell in love with a school in Africa and spent a good bit of time there working with the Maasai girls. That's the lowest tribe in the 42 tribes in Kenya. A lot of the little girls we worked with had been traded for cattle. They adored Pat, big, tall giant of a fellow. It was a school that we went to that was kindergarten to 8th grade. And they were so enamored with Pat. And most of the girls, it was a boarding school because their families, their parents were traveling with the cattle. One little girl who lived close to the school, her mother told me later, came home for lunch one day. And then she said, I have to hurry back. They do speak English at the school, by the way. And so she said, Mr. Newman was in my class this morning, and Mrs. Newwoman is going to be there this afternoon. But he was 6'6", expensive to clothe, hard to find shoes, and so handsome.
And it was a long, long relationship that, like all relationships, had its difficulties, but like all relationships, had to come to an end. So, with that in mind, what then was the last thing you know about that relationship?
When he became very ill, and had cancer, had to be brought home. He'd rather die at home. It's going to be not very easy. He did want to die at home, so we had a big old hospital bed in the bedroom and I was sleeping on the bed, he on the big hospital bed. And when the little booklet that they give you when you go in for the, they give you
Hospice.
hospice. I could see the signs, he was just about there. He had not spoken in 2 days, 3 days. His eyes were closed. When the hospice lady came, she came into the room and she said, that's about it. And he was up in the bed, kind of propped up a little bit. His eyes were closed. And my cheek was on top of his head. I was standing by the bed. And I was telling him how I loved him and what adventures we'd had. And suddenly the nurse lady, who was standing farther more by the door, knew that the time had come, and she pointed for me to look at his eyes. And his eyes were so very, very wide. And he looked like he was glowing. I can never be afraid of death, ever, because he saw something that was wonderful. I won't know what it was until I get there. But that was his last big gift to me, making me utterly unafraid of death. I would wish everybody could feel that way.
It's hard to know how to respond to a story like that. Because it's not every day that somebody comes up so honest, that somebody shows up so raw and vulnerable and can talk about love and death in the same breath. But if we did, if we could, more often, I wonder how we would feel about this idea or this concept called love. I wonder. Round of applause for the Newmans.